Hey guys, Pork Chopper here, and today we're going to look at one of my favourite deck builds for Gideon, which I call the Assassin deck. You go in, get the kills, and get the hell out of there before they even know what happened. I do also have a Gideon guide up, so if you want to know how to play him first, you should definitely check that guide out. I also have a few others such as how to mid lane and a gadget guide too, all linked in the description below. This build focuses on a lot of damage, mobility, and a mix of mana and health. It doesn't have too much mana involved as some decks do, but let's get right into it. First we start with the Archmagus, which is pretty basic with the extra power if you get Orb Prime. I have 2 cast tokens, a health and a mana potions, which is the most standard build. I just add another cast token in just in case I ever need it. We also have a non-upgraded Lord's Ward, which I'll get into why later. Then we have 2 lesser upgraded Amp Crystals, both with 3 minor costs each. I normally use these early game to get a lot of damage and a lot of mana, as early game you don't have much mana and your abilities still cost quite a lot. And then we have an upgraded version being a 12.1 with 3 major casts. We also have the Amulet of the Veteran with all 3 greater health being my main prime source of health for the later game. We have a Burst Engine, which again with the fully upgraded bonus of 12 extra power with 3 major casts, adds a teeny bit of mana regen, but this is just again a pure damage focused card. We also have a Sage's Ward, which I keep all throughout the game with 3 lesser healths, and again just it's a good card to have. And we also have a Shadow Scroll, which does give us actually a bit of option. We will always get the minor shock and shock, but it depends how much ability penetration we really need, as when you upgrade the Shadow Scroll it also gives you an extra 4 ability penetration, so that's why I added a major strike in just in case I don't want the dire shock. And then we go on to the last card being a Tele Blink with 3 basic sparks, which basically give you 0.3 extra mana regen per card. If you don't know what Tele Blink yet is, it's pretty much an ability which uses a blink charm. It consumes 75 mana to teleport you forward, has a cooldown of 15 seconds, and another passive is the card cannot be used for 5 seconds after taking damage from an enemy hero, so minions and towers are fine, it's just enemy heroes. Now you're probably wondering why I actually add this into a build with Gideon, who always has ability that makes him teleport, is because again this is a high mobility assassin type of deck. I want to move around very quickly and do a lot of damage and not be seen, it's very cool. We are now going to drop into some Gideon gameplay while I talk over this deck. Firstly, I buy the Lord's Ward straight away and drop it down somewhere in the mid lane and get back to my normal setup of being the potions and the cast token. It gives me and my team some vision of the early game, and in the mid lane that's very important indeed. I try to get 6 points before I back again. If I get 5, I just discard my cast token and be able to get the unupgraded Sage Ward and Amp Crystal. I then proceed to fully upgrade those cards. Unlike my gadget deck build, I normally don't get the Tele Blink card till later on, as I already have Torn Space, so I can escape onto first Monolith rather well. After this, it's either focusing on that 12 point card of the Amulet of the Veteran, or doubling down on damage with the other Amp Crystal. I normally go for the Amp Crystal, as it's still the early game and a 6 point card is very much more efficient. This also means I'll grab a whole extra 180 mana from those 2 Amp Crystals. If I were going to get the Amulet of the Veteran, if things were looking bad, I wouldn't upgrade it fully, but just to add another greater health or 2 would keep me alive longer. Whichever way I go, I buy the Tele Blink at this stage. I don't get the upgraded mana regen on it, and that's the last thing I actually buy. This card is the main focus of this deck, having not just 1 but 2 blink charms of Gideon's Torn Space isn't something the enemy team will expect. You can move around the map very quickly, and I love using Tele Blink to jump into battle ult and then use my Torn Space to get the hell out of there. I then at probably this stage, once I've had more upgraded mana, get rid of my 2 Amp Crystals and again get the full 12 fully upgraded one with all the 3 major casts. I then start to focus on the Amulet of the Veteran, making sure it's then fully upgraded, which is most of my health. I actually don't have an upgraded ward, I like to keep the 6.1, which is actually quite nice. This means I can have more cards focusing on my early game damage rather than focusing on the later game ward in the deck. At this stage, another decision has to be made. Do I need some ability penetration or just pure power? Most of the time it's the power option, so I buy the Burst Engine, then the Shadow Scroll, upgrading them both when I can. If I have to TP back to base with less than 3 card points, I put them into the Shadow Scroll instead, because it has a 1 point and 2 point card. And that's the deck done really. If the game all the way goes to 60 cards, I then finish off the Tele Blink card like I said with all the 3 mana regens. It does focus quite a bit on health than others do, giving me a bit over 2000 health with a lot of mobility. I get 12 to 18 ability penetration with a fully upgraded bonus shadow, just depends if you go for the penetration over the power. 90 more mana in the later game with the Amp Crystal, 1.5 extra mana regen coming from the burst engine and Tailored Blink card. You get around 156 to 174 power, again depending on the shadow scroll. You can definitely focus a lot more on damage, but I just like the balance of this build. It's so much fun to blink charm everywhere basically. Definitely an easy build for new players to jump into, as it's a bit more forgiving with the mobility and health. You just have to get used to the idea of using Teleblink, as like I said, if you get hit by an enemy you can't use it for 5 seconds, and even I've messed up sometimes trying to when I can't actually teleport into the barrel because I've been hit, so my Teleblink won't use. But anyway guys, that was the deck build for Gideon, a nice little assassin deck. I'll probably do another one over the upcoming weeks if I have time, because I have a lot of heroes to cover on Paragon. As I said before, you can check out my how to mid lane guide and my gadget and Gideon guide and a deck for gadget as well, all in the description below and on my channel. But anyway guys, I hope you have a good day and I'll see you next time.